What is that? Is that sunshine? When's the last time we saw... Oh, there goes Steve. When's the last time we saw sunshine, T-Rex and Steve? T-Rex giving us the side eye. When's the last time we saw sunshine, T-Rex? Oh, it's been a while. At least this kind of sunshine. Morning, Steve. Morning. It's practically lunchtime. 65 degrees, 10 past 10 on Friday, September 27th. The tide is on the way out. Plenty of space at the beach, and it is late September sunburn weather. It's the bluest sky we've seen in more than a week. September started off, after the first 2 days anyway, with 2 weeks of nothing but blue sky and smoke in the sky and gorgeous weather. Then, at least here in southern New England, we had 8 days in a row of clouds. Cape Cod got more than a half a foot of rain. And then in the last 3 days, northern New England has had 1 to 3 inches of rain. You add it all up and divide by 27 days, you have average New England weather. And late September, of course, there are going to be hurricanes in the mix. Fortunately, not here. A fabulous view from space this morning. Where'd the cloud go? I guess I can show the time lapse on my web camera. When I woke up this morning, the left half of our sky had clouds in it, and we can watch those recede off to the south. High pressure building in from the north, and this cloud is so fascinating. If you look at the really wide view, how about the entire North America all the way to Europe? Looks like Vincent van Gogh. Starry night. Does anyone else see starry night in this satellite imagery with the swirls? I don't know why Van Gogh called it starry night, because he showed more like galaxies. Galaxies swirl into black holes. Everything is fluid. Everything is waves. And we have gorgeous waves this morning. Pia and Leif, can you hear me? You're at work? How about those little waves going under your boat? Seriously though, this storm off to our south, just horrific for so many people. This is what it looks like on a closer up satellite view, and you can see New England right on the northern edge of this vast cloud. And it's a front from Canada that's kind of repelling the northern edge of Helene. It's not exactly an outer band of Helene there. Even if Helene was not there, we would have had this front with the clouds pushing off to the south of New England. And boy, did those clouds produce in the last 3 days. Northern New England, this is a 3-day rainfall total. In Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, we've picked up an average of about 1.5 inches, with a few spots getting more than 2 inches. And then yesterday, bands of rain, impossible to predict, as we always say, where they're going to set up. Bands of rain. I didn't hear of any thunder, but there were certainly some torrential rains, and added up to close to 2 inches there near Ledgard, Connecticut. And in the Boston area, I think we missed the heaviest rains. And Bob Bach on Chase Ave, and Dennis says, what'd you say, Bob? About 1.33 inches. So another couple of inches of rain in parts of New England. And look at this, gorgeous. Just enough rain to make the Montauk daisy so beautiful this morning. Oh, I love the Montauks. I've been moving this one around. It's been split and divided. Ginny, did you get any Montauk blooms out of this? I really cut it back harsh there, so I didn't get any blooms. You gotta really be on top of your Montauks. So this bucket in here with my scissors, this is last week's rain and yesterday's rain. That much. How do you like my rain gauges? And this one is how much rain in the last 24 hours, 0.34. So a little disappointing with the rainfall here in my garden, but it's 1.5 inches in the last 10 days, so that'll do. Just gorgeous. I checked the buoy reports this morning. The seas off of New England, which have been so churned up for a week, are now reporting 3 to 4 feet at 11 seconds. That is just perfect swell, and it's an outgoing tide, so it's low tide at lunchtime. And if I can get my act together, I'm going to go over to the beach. I did get some images this morning from Rhode Island and New Hampshire, and there was no one out really yet. It was kind of high tide, and I'm not sure why there was nobody out yet, but hopefully I'll get over there. What should we do next? The forecast for New England, high pressure, it's a weak high. Here's the surface analysis. There's about a 10-12 occluded low in Maine. We talked about that a lot. And on the backside of yesterday's rising air and downpours, we have sinking air with this nice little high pressure system. Here's the Boston 5-day meteograph. 75 today, light variable wind, and then over the weekends closer to 70. Just pretty much gorgeous here, but there will be instability clouds as the atmosphere grows unstable here, and with an onshore flow more than a sea breeze. We're going to have high pressure in southeastern Canada, which is going to protect us from all that rain off to the south. And I have a lot to say about Helene, and mostly high regard for my friends that covered the storm. Jim Cantore, when your college buddy is like the most famous hurricane person on television, of course you're going to turn on the TV, and that's what I did. I watched TV a lot last night, and you know, there's some craziness out there, people taking chances, but I think I'll save that pontification for a few minutes from now. Can you see the beautiful refraction of the sunlight off of these dewdrops that are attached to this spider web? This is our old buddy. Hey, Charlotte. Was Charlotte the spider or the pig? I can't remember. Look at that. Hello, good morning. Never know what you can see in out the door, weather and more. Steve was just batting the cabbage butterfly. And let's plug Steve into the ground here just to make sure he doesn't take off. Oh, I'm just loving this weather. I think I might just sit down and finish the forecast. There are a lot of things we have to pay attention to here in New England, you know, because the weather comes at us from every direction all the time. And now why don't we go to Helene, the massive circulation. Talk about spiders and cobwebs. Look at the isobars surrounding Helene. An isobar is a line of equal pressure. What is wind, air, moving from high to low pressure. It's a fairly weak high pressure system in southeastern Canada, but it's still a very deep 972 millibar tropical storm Helene. Central pressure 972. That's up from when it came in last night at 939 millibars. Deeper than pretty much any forecast. I mean, there were a couple of runs of a couple models that probably showed it that deep. That's 27.7 inches on the barometer. Just an amazing storm. Fortunately, it looks like the storm surge only got up to 10 to 12, which is catastrophic, and I would never want to be in it in a category 4 hurricane. But there was some forecasts of perhaps a 20-foot storm surge. And the imagery coming out, Aaron Rigsby this morning in Steinhatchee. Steinhatchee was, I think, one of the highest storm surges, around 11 feet. And that damage is water damage. So the storm surge was all it could be. In the wind department, it seems like some parts of like North Carolina this morning. There goes my roof. The mountains of North Carolina along the Appalachian Trail seem to be getting more wind damage than parts of Florida.
Used to be a roof over there.
All right, so the maximum wind I could find around Florida near the eye of the storm was a buoy about 120 miles west-northwest of Tampa. And that buoy did gust over 100 miles an hour. I think it was sustained close to 80 and it gusted 107. So then why is the National Hurricane Center calling it sustained winds of 140 miles an hour? The greatest wind in Tallahassee gusted to 58 miles an hour last night. You know, when the hurricane came through here in 1938 on Blue Hill, the wind was sustained at 121 miles an hour and it gusted to 186 miles per hour. So call that catastrophic. Back then, though, all you had were anemometers on the ground. You didn't have planes flying through the storms with stepped frequency radars. I can't remember the name of it. SFMR. And the radars on the bottom of the planes, they're the ones that give the sustained winds. And the sustained wind of 140 is up in the sky. It didn't really come to the ground unless it was in a severe thunderstorm or a tornado, which there are plenty of this morning. But now you get into the mountains of North Carolina and West Virginia and Eastern Tennessee and Kentucky. Now you are getting those winds gusting close to 100 miles an hour, and that's why we saw that damage there in North Carolina. So what's going to do? All right, enough on that. Little editorial saying I really just don't know how to gauge the hurricanes when the Hurricane Center says sustained 140 and you're only ending up with winds of less than 100. That's another bridge we'll cross some other day. Let's try and go forward from this beautiful weather. It can't stay this nice, right? I don't think it's going to be this nice, but it should be a nice weekend. Here's the Euro going forward, and we're going to just go day by day. Here is the high pressure system building in southeastern Canada, and up in the sky it's going to get a little less stable, so we'll have a few instability clouds. There's a piece of Helene breaking off and going south of us tomorrow. Looks like another band trying to come up to our doorstep here on Sunday, but then there's another high pressure system coming out of Ontario and Quebec. So we're going to have a continuous flow of new high pressure to our north. So that means our air will be coming from the north and east again next week, nowhere near the ferocity of the last week, at least not until about Tuesday here. Now look at Tuesday night, and I'm going to slow it way down. Now the remnant of Helene is all the way up to Long Island, and there's a cold front coming out of Canada. And all of a sudden we have deepening cyclogenesis on a triple point low. That's where occlusion meets warm meets cold front. And Helene trying to regenerate right over southern New England now on Wednesday with copious rain, and then pushing offshore Wednesday night into Thursday with nor'easter type look to it. And wind and rain abates Wednesday into Thursday, and we have high pressure with cooler air trying to come into New England. But look at the remnant or ghost of Helene trying to regenerate and looping around south and east of Nantucket, ending up by day 10 out there near Nova Scotia as a 998 low. That would be a cold core. And so it wouldn't be a tropical storm anymore at that point. And if I stop it on day 10 and we look around, and there's no sign of that cold anymore. It's way up in Canada. It's pretty nice, almost coast to coast. And there's another storm in the Gulf of Mexico. In the Gulf of Mexico, is that you, Kirk? Kirk. The K storm? Why would the K storm come out of there? Time out. Zoom in. Boat taking off to go fishing. Why not? Is my audio changing? Because I'm not wearing my lavalier. I'm using the iPhone microphones. And while we're here, hi Steve. How's it going? You having a good morning? I think the viewers like the cats and the dogs as much as the weather, man. And how you doing, Rex? Everything okay over there? Good. All right, I'm gonna keep going now. Kirk, the K storm. Let's see, that would be the 11th named storm. Well, what about I and J? Well, Isaac, now a hurricane, tiny compared to Helene, but it's a hurricane and it's headed over toward Europe, Isaac. So that's the 9th storm. And the one to the south of Isaac, the National Hurricane Center says almost definitely going to become Joyce in the next couple of days. So that will be the 10th storm. And Kirk kind of just generates in the Gulf of Mexico on the backside of vast high pressure that is supposed to build over the eastern United States next week. So a lot of times those fronts get into the Gulf of Mexico and they regenerate. And that's pretty much, we've seen the remnant of a bunch of those over the last 6, 8, 10 weeks. So we've had plenty of rain in New England. The foliage is coming on strong. Should be a nice weekend. Muddy underfoot. And for Enmore, coming out yesterday, kind of frustrated the raindrops were missing us. And there was a rain band just to our north as the sun was going down. I did a long time lapse thinking the rain might come in, but it didn't. Cormorant just went underwater right there. It's swimming, it's swimming. Come on, Cormorant, come back up. This is live television. YouTube is television, right? And there's a cormorant holding his breath. And you're all holding your breath or either saying goodbye to TK. I'm not waiting any longer for any more. I don't blame you. Why do you talk so much? Well, it's so beautiful, and I don't want to go inside and edit, but I have to. So there he is, right in the reflection of the sailboat. Cormorant's up. TK leaving you with and more from yesterday. Talk to you tomorrow. Gorgeous. What's up, Rex? Taking me for a walk? They said it was going to rain today. It did rain a little bit. Gotta water the chrysanthemums. It's warm out. It's 72 degrees. Hi. And we did have a little bit of rain earlier in the day, but mostly just off to the west and north. It's been raining pretty hard. So we need some and more. Let's see what Rex finds up here. There's a little damp road. Lots of fun smells. And feels really good to be out there. Barely enough to dampen the acorns so far. A couple leaves down, but we have a long way to go in that department. What is it? What is it, Max? Yeah, I don't trust any of that. Wow, look at that nice rock art. Beautiful. Structure, balance. Great view of the city. On this gray Thursday. 6 o'clock. You can just see the towers on a massive cruise ship going out of the Boston Harbor, the other side of Petix Island. You see that white moving spire? Wanted to get it earlier, but obstructed view seating. Fascinating weather right now with a couple of bands of really heavy rain with the first warm front, cold front combination we've had in New England since September 1st. Just talked to Bob Copeland on the phone. He says, hello, everybody. And it's only in the mid-50s at Bob's house. Well, Montreal is 72. So there's quite a warm front in northern New England. It's generated over 2 inches of rain last 24 hours. Mount Washington with a wind gust to 60 miles an hour from the west. Here at my house, the cruise ship's gone. I'm going to widen out now. Band of rain to the north. I know everyone's talking about Helene, but we have fascinating weather too. The flag is barely moving. That's because I'm on the north side of a hill in the southerly wind. So it doesn't really mix down. But up in the sky, air is coming in about 50 knots up about 15,000 feet. So why don't I just leave a time lapse of these clouds for the next half hour or an hour. How can I not hit the flag in the time lapse? Come on, Tim. And I can see how windy it is up in the sky compared to down on the ground. Did you notice the car windows on the inside start fogging? Dew point went up, temperature stayed in the 60s in the garage, foggy windows. Rain bands have been just sitting. So it's one of those zip code rainfall lotteries. One zip code gets an inch, another gets less than a tenth. So far, I'm less than a tenth.